Hi, how's it going, everybody? In this episode of Toys Back Zen, we're going to make some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle capes for some 1988 figures. It's really hard to find material for these capes. It's very specific, but we're going to make a Splinter cape, and later we're going to make a Shredder cape. So stick around and I'll show you how. So the material that I'm using here is just a used scarf that I found at a secondhand shop. I got it for about $2. And I just took a picture from an eBay ad that was selling an original cape. And it's about 85 millimeters or 3¼ inches from the slot there to the bottom tip. All we need to do now is to fold it in the middle, and we're just going to cut it out like we would do a snowflake. That way they're congruent on both sides. I'm going to cut this out. I believe this template was done from an oval shape, so you can just cut an oval all the way around, and then you can cut out the pattern, the little triangle patterns on one side, and then you'll get your full cape. The original cape is more of a pink color, so I'm using red here. That's fine. And we've got this cut out now. We can test it just to see. I just want to make sure that the cape doesn't go past his heels, and that looks pretty good. I have an app that I use for putting the object into the app, and you can scale it to any size you want. If I need to scale it a little bit larger or even smaller if it's too big, I can use my app to do that, and then it prints out at that size. So I've got some double-sided tape here, and we're just going to use that so it doesn't move around while you're cutting it off. Just pulling the back of the double-sided tape off here. So here's the material I'm going to use to put it on. I'm just going to use the double-sided tape and put it right here in the corner. Make sure it's nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some regular Scotch tape, and I'm going to tape just around the edges of the material. That'll keep it from falling away from the template as I'm cutting it out. So let's get this taped up and then we'll cut it out. So here's our cloak. This is more of a cloak than a cape. We'll pull this off. Now, I would recommend using double-sided tape that's not like for carpets or anything like that, because that stuff is really strong and it will pull your material apart. This stuff here is just for like when you're doing painting around the edges of walls and windows, and so it's low tack. So if you get a low tack double-sided tape, so there's our opening. We just cut the opening. It's a T-shape opening. Make sure you use a really sharp blade. If you don't, then it will cause the material to fray. So here is our cape, and it's kind of frayed a little bit, but I think it looks pretty good. It's red instead of the pinkish purple color, but I think it will do a pretty good job. The original figure had a belt that holds the cloak around his body, and so we're going to make a belt today. So let's do that next. So I've found this Velcro one wrap. I used it for my guitar cables, wrapping them together so that when I put them in a bag, they don't get all mixed up and knotted together. I'm going to cut off about 13 centimeters of this Velcro. One side of the Velcro is kind of the carpet feel, and the other side has the little hooks on it that connects it together. Just check it to make sure it's going to wrap around him, and then you can fasten it nice and tight. Seems to work. It'll get tighter when you have the cloak around him because it has to go over the cloak. So that looks like it's going to work out good. Now it's too wide, so let's cut this. I'm going to cut it around 1 centimeter wide. So I think this is about 2 centimeters wide. So just pretty much cut it in half, maybe a little thinner than that. So I'll use my cutting mat here. Those are 1 centimeter grid squares. The other side of the Velcro has the plastic hooks. That's what connects to the soft side of the Velcro, which is also going to stick to your material. And we don't want to do that. You can use any kind of knife. I'm going to just use this box cutter knife here. And I'm going to scrape the back of the hooks pretty much on the whole piece. The only part I don't want to scrape is the very end of it, because that's the part that wraps around that's going to stick to the soft side of the Velcro. When you feel it, you can feel that there's no hooks anymore, and it doesn't actually stick to the material except for this piece here, which I told you is the part that needs to stick. So the outside parts wraps around first. The front part just overlaps, and then you just put the belt on. Now the belt I'm going to put on the front so I don't see the connections, and then I'll fasten it onto the back, and that should look great. So that holds the cloak in place, and I think it looks pretty good. So I also made a front piece of the belt to make it look like the original one. There's a round piece. It looks like the belt had been tied in the front, and I just made like a circular belt looking piece that you can just, I did the same thing. I just scraped the back of the back and the bottom of the belt and then stuck it to the front. But then I just finished this video and I was like, okay, that's great. And then I went to Fabricland and I found this fabric. This, for one thing, it was 50% off, which was perfect. But I went to Fabricland looking for cape material for some Battlestar Galactica figures and some Black Hole figures to see if I could find some material, because I've been wanting to make capes for those figures for a while. And I came upon this. So all I did was use the same process that I showed you with the red cape, and this is what it turned out like. And I actually think that this looks much better. This is actually an Arctic fleece. And it's a really light material, and the lady that I bought it from at Fabricland told me that when you cut it, it does not fray. But we're not done yet. I also found some Arctic fleece that was in a purple color. I thought that it might have been a little bit too thick when I bought it at the store, but this was the closest I could get to the material. They did have a cotton there that actually would have looked really good, actually probably better than this, but they only had one color in the cotton. It was like a tan color, so that wasn't going to work. So I chose this anyway. It was really cheap. I've got about 4 feet by 15 centimeters wide of both materials. Plus I got some elastic and I got some other material for 2 other capes, which I'll show you in the future. And it cost me $7.80. I pretty much like choked when she told me how cheap it was to buy this material. So I thought it was going to cost me at least 30 bucks. So, so I was happy about that. So here's my template here. I got it cut out. I'm just going to cut it out exactly how it's shaped. But we're going to use the double-sided tape. And here's our cape. It's a perfect color, and I think it looks really good. I actually kind of like the texture of this material too. It looks really good on the figure. This figure does not stand at all, so I've got him standing in a 3D printed Motu stand. And here's our 2 rivals in the TMNT playset. I've got 2 of these. I've got one downstairs in my video room, and I've got one in my toy room that I use for all my Ninja Turtles. If you use this idea and make your own capes, please give me an email and send me your pictures. I'd love to see them. That's my video for the capes and cloaks for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter and Shredder. Thanks for watching this episode of Toys Back Zen. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell down below to be notified for new videos coming up. Thanks for watching. See you later.